Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and a Book. My name is William Hemsworth. It's great to be with you this week here on Elevation Radio Network. Pleased to have my guest, Keith Mayhew-Hammond. He's the author of a great new book that just came out in early January called Saint Nick's Journey, Suffering Souls of Awahso. And Keith is, he's a member of the Personal Ordinariate of the Chair of St. Peter and is a lector and altar server at Good Shepherd Church. He's also a proud member and co-founder of the Fraternal Society of Our Lady of Walsingham. Educated by Dr. F.J. Donovan Collegiate Institute, he served briefly in the Canadian Reserve with the Ontario Regiment. He was born and lives in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. Keith, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Hey, I'm well. It's great to be with you. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So we've corresponded by email a little bit. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your faith background, and we'll get into your book.
Okay. Well, I'm a devout Catholic, and I was confirmed about in 2016. And before that, I was baptized in the United Church, and I had spent a lot of time in a non-denominational church during my youth.
Okay.
And in between that, I started to question a lot of different things, and I checked out a lot of different Christian sects and even some other religions. And I kept having this thing in my mind where the Catholic faith would kind of come up, but I would just say, it couldn't possibly be that. That couldn't be the truth. And but eventually I just had to go where the truth led me. And I ended up finding out that it was the truth. And so then I got confirmed, and there was no looking back.
All right. Sounds like mine. I grew up in a Protestant background, and I said when I started looking into the Catholic Church, I was like, no. So Saint Nick's Journey. So what brought this book on? What was the development of this book?
Well, it went through a lot of changes. I actually had the idea for the book about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And but it went through a lot of changes in the way I wanted to do it. And basically I had a very difficult childhood and youth because I had I still have Asperger's, and which is a form of autism, and I was diagnosed in high school, but I didn't really understand anything about it. So a lot of the issues that come with that can be very difficult if you don't understand why you're going through that.
Okay.
And it can be very isolating. And I went through a lot of depression and anxiety, and I was very afraid of death and losing my family and friends to death, and basically afraid of the future and the past, sort of thing. But once I found the Catholic faith, especially with all the miracles that are associated with it, I was very surprised that all these things were out there, like the Eucharistic miracles and the what do you call the saints when they're the relics of the saints that are incorruptible, the incorruptible bodies.
Okay.
That there's all these miracles that have happened that can even be tested today, that really confirm that God does exist and he is working on this earth. And once I realized that, it just helped quench a lot of my doubts. And because a lot of my doubts were actually kind of crippling, like it made it hard to function, which might be difficult for some people to understand. But and so in finding that, I learned a lot, and I wanted to be able to teach people some of what I had learned in a way that could help them. And the best way that I could figure out how to do it was with a fictional story. And it's the first story I wrote, and it I actually found it quite engaging and fun to write. So I think I'm gonna keep doing it.
There you go. Go for it. Go for it. So you said you started the process about 10 years ago. What was it like? What was that initial development? Was it just a thought that was in your mind, or did you start writing then? What was that like?
At that moment, it was just a brainstorming thought that I had, where I just kind of had this idea of a child who went on a journey to try and find Saint Nicholas, and later on, it just as my journey changed, so did the journey of the story, and it seemed kind of like the perfect timing for the story. It was exactly when I wrote it, just when everything came together. It was fun. That's right.
All right. So, and I hate to say this, I don't have my copy of the book yet. It's on its way. But maybe can you give us maybe some background without giving away too much? Obviously, we want people to buy the book. Maybe what the characters are, what their stories are. Maybe can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. So the main character, is his name is Tommy, and he's an adolescent, and he has these terrible nightmares, that show how he's thinking, and he's very afraid of losing his family, to time and to death. He's afraid of getting older, and just a lot of earthly attachment issues, and he was having a lot of crippling doubts about his faith. And he has a younger brother named Nate, who's very understanding, but a completely different character than him. And he loves sport. His brother loves sports, and he tries to be supportive, but he's a lot more positive. And then he also ends up meeting a friend, who's also very positive, but what's the word, eccentric.
Mm-hmm.
And so they end up getting along quite well. And the main character is bullied a lot at school, and so it just seems when the holidays come around that he had put all his hope into that one holiday, and it just didn't go the way he wanted, and so it just was kind of a triggering moment for him, and they end up deciding. He ends up deciding to run away to try and find Saint Nicholas, and on the way, a lot of things happen on that journey, and it doesn't go exactly the way he planned, but it turns out well in the end for all the characters, I think.
Okay. Now you mentioned some of the description of the character at the beginning. Is that, I guess, in a fictional way, is that kind of how you saw yourself at the time?
Yeah, the main character, although he's a fictional character, I put a lot of myself into him, because I guess I wanted to give him a lot of the same struggles and attributes, to really kind of tell the audience what it's like to go through that in a way that's relatable. But I also wanted to make sure that it wasn't so much alike that there was real real other characters, because it's because I don't want to, I don't want to insult people or anything like that.
Oh, sure. No, understand. Now, what is it that you hope that people get out of the book?
I hope that when they read the book, that it can inspire them to never give up hope, even if they do struggle with crippling doubts or whatever they struggle with, to just not despair, and to not dwell inward so much on your own struggles, but to look to God and to others out of charity, and help by consoling. Trying to think of how to word it. When Christ goes through a lot of the struggles, like the passion and the death that he did that for us, I think that when we focus on that rather than our own issues, it really it's a way of charity towards God, and he tells us in the Bible that whenever we do a good work for others, that it's doing likewise to him.
Right.
And so I think that it's so easy to look inward and to just turn to despair. But if we try and console God and others in their struggles, it really helps our own. And that's what I want to teach people through the book, or at least one thing.
Oh, great. Okay. Now the book's been out a couple months now. What feedback have you received on the book?
So far, the feedback has been fairly positive. I had Charles Colombe, for instance. He actually wrote a blurb for my book, and he really enjoyed it. And I've had some non-Catholics who have read it who also like it, and have told me that it was a story that they liked. I haven't had, to be honest, any negative feedback yet,
Okay.
but maybe one day.
There's always one.
Yeah.
Now, maybe for those that don't know, can you tell our audience who Charles Colombe is? Because it's a pretty big deal that he wrote the foreword for your book.
Yeah. Charles Colombe is a co-host on the show Tumblr. Sorry, the show is Off the Menu, and he's an author who has a lot of books in the publishing house Tumblr House.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a staunch Catholic, and as well as a traditional monarchist, and he's very funny. He used to be a stand-up comedian, and he actually even gave me a shout out on his show on his last episode there, about on Monday.
Okay, great.
He's a very jolly kind of person.
I've noticed that on Twitter. I was on the Catholic Canuck podcast recently, and the host tagged me with him, and I was looking through his feed. I was like, man, he's a funny guy. so yeah, I've noticed that. Now,
Yeah.
So what's next for you? You said you want to write more in the future. Do you have anything maybe germinating in your mind right now?
Yeah, I actually wrote the content for the second book in the series, and I'm working on the editing, which is the harder part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the story is completely. It has different characters and everything, but it's connected by the same city and some of the same themes. And I decided that in each of the stories for the series, that I want to connect it to one of the stories with some kind of an Easter egg. So there's something that people can sort of look for to try and find where that connection is.
Okay. So how many books do you think you'll end up having in the series when everything's said and done?
I think about 5 to 7 I have in mind.
Okay.
Um,
So you have a lot of writing ahead of you.
yeah.
That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Now,
Yeah.
you talked about the editing process. Can you walk our audience through what the process is like to get a book published, especially with a publishing house like you're on with St. Nick's Journey? I mean, every publishing house is, I mean, it's similar, but each of them are also different. But can you walk us through that process and maybe how long it may take?
Yeah. So what I noticed was the one mistake I made, because I hadn't done this before, was I was focused too much on getting the whole book edited before trying to do submissions. And what I noticed is that most of the publishing companies, for the submission, they only want the first few chapters, because I guess the idea is if they're not caught or hooked by the third chapter, then there's no deal. And so what I hope to do in the future is to just heavily edit the first 3 chapters and then start to do some submissions at the same time that I'm trying to edit the rest of the book. But gratefully, I have a friend, Arthur Bousfield, who is a really good editor, and he helped me a lot in editing this book. And I think with the process of trying to get a book published, you really have to learn to enjoy rejection because
Yes.
most of them will say no. But I was really, but the good thing about being rejected by so many is that it helps you to learn how to approach it better in the future. And also it made me much more grateful for the one that was interested. Not that the others weren't, that's a bad way to put it, because I actually got positive feedback from the publishers that did reject it. And they gave me some advice on what to do and everything. But it's just once, if you have 10 people say no, when someone finally says yes, it can just be amazing.
Changes your world, changes your worldview. You get those no. You're like, oh man. Then you get that email or letter or whatever, and you're like, yes, all right.
Yeah.
So what publisher ended up picking you up?
The publisher is Whip and Stock Publications, and it's under the imprint of Resource.
Okay.
Resource Publications, and they're based in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of different imprints for academic works and fictional and all sorts of things. But they were I was very pleased with working with them. They were very upfront about everything the entire way through.
So from start to finish, how long did it take for the book to hit the shelves?
Oh, sorry, something came up here.
Oh, it's all right.
From start to finish, does that include writing?
So you've written everything and now you've submitted it. Like from that point, how long did it take for everything to happen for you?
I'd say about a year and a half, but more than half of that was my fault because I didn't know what I was doing. So I think that with the next one, the time period should be a lot less, because I have a much better understanding now of how to sort of multitask instead of doing all the editing, all the submissions, and then this and that. I think I've improved my process a bit.
All right. No, good deal. I mean, the book itself, it sounds fascinating. I can't wait to get my copy in the mail. I was hoping I would have had it already, but post office here has been weird lately. It took 2 weeks for my sister's wedding invitation to get to me. She lives 5 miles away.
Yeah, I think the pandemic is slowing
Definitely.
mail down and stuff.
Definitely.
But I look forward to hearing your review when you read it.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I'll definitely do that, and I'll post it on my Pathos blog as well. I'll try to get as much traffic to you as possible. Now, where can our listeners where can they check the book out? Where can they buy it?
I have a website, kmhbooks.ca, and it has a lot of information about a lot more information about the book, and I'm going to put some information about upcoming projects on there as well. And it has links on the website of where they can buy it, which can they can get it on Amazon, they can get it directly from the publisher or from my Etsy store. But I have a list on the website to put the links in one place.
Okay.
To make it easier for people.
Okay, now in early January, the book was released as paperback. Did the ebook recently come out? I think I saw that.
Yeah, there's a hardcover, a soft cover, and an ebook.
Okay.
The ebook, there's an ebook available on Amazon, both Amazon Canada, America, and the UK, in case anyone's watching from the United Kingdom. And it's also on, I think, Kobo, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, Kobo. Yep.
People can find it on the Indigo website. Yeah, there's a lot of places that have picked it up, and they can buy it directly from the publisher as well.
Right. So I guess the best thing to do is go to your website. Can you give that website one more time for me?
It's kmhbooks.ca.
Okay. So go to the website, check out the links, and check out everything that Keith has going on. I mean, this book sounds great. 5 to 7 books in the series. There's a lot more to come. Now, Keith, do you have any closing words that you want to give our listeners about the book or anything else?
I guess I would just like to say that it's amazing to find something that you really enjoy doing. And I'd encourage everyone, whether it's a hobby, even if it's just a part-time hobby, just that, it's easy to say, it's easy to put stuff off, because I did that for the longest time with this book. But once I finally actually started writing it was a very moving experience. And I just think if everyone can find a way of doing that in whatever their interest is, that it'd probably make the world a better place.
Right. Oh yeah. Follow your passion. Do it. And don't be afraid of rejection at all.
Yeah.
Well, Keith, I thank you for taking some time to come on and talk about your book. Great things. You're doing great things out there. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And I saw some of your show recently, and I really liked the interviews you did.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, take care.
Okay. Take care.